Welcome back to another episode of Catch This Now. This podcast is all about providing engaging topics that will educate you so you are enlightened with the tools and techniques that you can use to do the work on your journey to being the best version of yourself. I am your host, Tiffany Hodge, LMSW, and founder of Tiffany Empowers. And my hope is that you catch all of this now so you won't get caught up with it later. Let's do the work. Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be back. I hope you all are having a fantastic week. We know that March is Women's Health Month, but we also want to recognize all the great social workers that are doing the thing that we love to do in our community. So for the next 3 Wednesdays, I am highlighting some wonderful social workers that I have the opportunity of working with and knowing and going to school with. And I just thought, hey, this would be a great time to introduce them to you all. So make sure you have your pen and your paper ready for the next 3 Wednesdays because it's going to be exciting. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to introduce you to my brother-in-law. Yes, he is a licensed master social worker in the state of South Carolina. His name is Varney Hodge, and he has been in mental health for over 20 years, providing services to children, adolescents, adults, and the geriatric population. He obtained his MSW, or his Master's in Social Worker, from the University of South Carolina, Columbia Go Gamecocks. He is a graduate from Payne College, where he earned his undergraduate degree. Shout out to that HBCU, Payne College. And he wanted us to know that on his journey through life, he has been accompanied for over 20 years by his beautiful wife and his 3 young men now. He's passionate about his family, his children, and being an amazing social worker. He is also a Christian minister, just spreading the gospel of Christ. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to some who I get the privilege of seeing on holidays and just all the fun stuff we get to do as family. But I wanted you all to get a chance to hear how he is breaking barriers as an amazing social worker. So without further ado, I'm introducing Varney Hodge, LMSW, another social worker breaking barriers. For coming on, we are super excited to have you. Yes, if for those that don't know, this is my brother-in-law, so this is not just somebody that I just picked up off the street or I see as a colleague. This is someone that I know, I spend time with, and I value his perspective and his expertise. And I know he works in a different realm as it relates to social work. So I wanted to invite him on, and he was gracious enough to spend some time with us. So I am pleased to introduce to some of y'all my brother-in-law, my brother, Varney Hodge. Hey, Varney.
Hello, everybody. It's my first podcast, so kind of nervous, but I'm excited at the same time.
Yeah, podcasting can be a bit different, but we're just going to have a nice conversation. We're going to talk about what we do as profession and anything else that you want to throw in and chime in on, anything you want to leave with the people, please feel free to do that. And I'm excited to have you. Okay. So it's Happy Social Work Month to you.
That's right. March 4th, Happy Social Work Day to you too.
Yeah.
And I want to open up. I know I spoke this at your birthday party last year, but you influenced me to get the master's way back in 14. So when I graduated, in 17, you was a great influence. I want the listeners to understand and know that, you influenced me to go back to school after 14-year hiatus.
Yes. I appreciate you saying that. It was such a humbling experience when you said about it at my birthday. I was like, oh, That is so sweet, and I'm glad that I was able to be of encouragement, and you actually went and did it,
Right.
and now look at you out there doing big things in South Carolina.
Right.
Yes, you were employee of the year.
Yeah, 19. Yes,
Yeah.
I was actually also the first one from my department to reach that status. Same year, not only for the department within uh, Aiken Barnwell Mental Health, but also for the state in the Department of Mental Health. So it was a great year in 2019. Started new programs, justice programming, which is really exploding in South Carolina, especially in the Aiken area. And we just building on to adult services. We are in the community. We have a 24-hour mobile crisis unit that goes out in the Aiken and Barnwell County. We have clinicians right now on call. So if there's any crisis that's going on, a mental health crisis, accompanied by the police, a mental health therapist will definitely go out there and assess. And if needed, they will go to the hospital or some other type of diversionary practice will occur.
Hmm.
So it's a great thing going on with mental health in South Carolina right now.
That is awesome that you all are really being forefront in this and trying to put forth those parameters. And I like that you mentioned that you all are actually working with police.
Right.
How is that working in South Carolina? What is that working? Is it?
It's working. We have a great relationship with the Aiken County Public Safety and also the Aiken City. So we have the county and city police go out with us on calls. Uh, it works because instead of going directly to jail, they call a therapist, and we work in a combination of tools, and we go out and assess. So they take lack of a better term, a backseat, and we conduct the assessment. And more than not, we will uh, suggest that a person goes to the hospital for further evaluation instead of going to the jail.
Mhm.
So it does cut down on a lot of people who does not belong in a jail being jailed for for mental health reason.
That's amazing, and that's one way that I think we as social workers are able to show that we're breaking down these barriers, and we're actually collaborating with other disciplines to make sure that we are servicing our community and those that may be having some mental health challenges with better alternatives than just loading up the jails with a lot of people who probably necessarily might not need to be there due to, just experiencing a mental health crisis. Can you tell us, our audience and myself, a little bit about your background as it relates to working for the state as a social worker?
All right. Well, I worked with the Department of Mental Health for over 20 years in many capacities. Also for the last 5 in social work. I know I alluded to earlier. Once you got a degree, a master's degree, everything just exploded. So I went from providing therapy in house in the department uh, and on outpatient services to being embedded in the jail, the county jail. That was a new experience, and that's I know one of the questions you may ask us about. You know, our I guess what does social work look now? How does it look now in this capacity? But my background is mental health. Deal with the SPMI population, severely persistent mentally ill, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. In the community. So it's like I said, it ranged over 20 years, not only with the Department of Mental Health, but also on the child side. Back in started in 1998. So I'm coming up on what's that? Maybe 25 years, 26 years in the business, and I'm learning every day. One thing that I do want to dispel is, and I hate the stigma of, I dislike the stigma of people who diagnosed with schizophrenia being dangerous. I know in the movies and they're depicted as killers. They're not. All right, so I want to dispel that immediately. A person who was diagnosed with schizophrenia is not dangerous, no more than a person who is undiagnosed, could be severely depressed, and probably want to go out and shoot somebody. We want to dispel all stigma with mental health issues, especially with men, black men. If you need somebody to talk to, you know, I implore you to go seek somebody, somebody who, if you want to talk to another black guy, black woman, whatever, talk to somebody so we could unload a lot of these hurts, a lot of these anger uh, that you have that's trapped inside you. Know you don't have no outlet. So next thing you do, you're angry and you do something else that would be detrimental to your life or someone else. So I know I may be rambling, but it's passion. I'm passionate with expressing how the need of mental health therapy in our community it should be a forefront. Up there with diabetes and high blood pressure, mental health services should be offered in every aspect of our life.
You're not rambling because a lot of people don't even, I think, realize um, that that schizophrenia and bipolar and all the population that we serve as it relates to mental health, they are mostly victimized,
Right.
more than being the perpetrator, if you will. And that's one thing that we have to dispel a lot is that, they're victims majority of the time.
Right.
And we have to do what we need to do as better practitioners is educating the community on what these things are and how they may come out differently in different people.
Right.
Everybody's schizophrenia is not the same across the board. And I'm glad that you mentioned African American men. You being one, working in this capacity, being from New York City, things that you may have seen growing up or even here, working in the capacities that you've worked with within the state, you may see things that usually, growing up, we just dismissed.
Right.
And now coming into a better understanding and really working with it, you may see things as no, it might be something else. It might be traumatic. It might be bipolar. It might be other things. So I'm sure going to school, shout out to Payne College, your alumni, right? We're going to give all the
2000, no, 99, 99. Graduated 1999.
yes, all the HBCUs and
Right.
South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, right?
Right.
School of Social Work.
17, School of Social
Yes,
Work.
go Gamecocks.
Mm-hmm.
Broaden our horizon, not just yours, but mine too. Because I think we might have been closed off to a lot of things, thinking that this is just how we operate.
Right.
And then when we get better knowledge, we start to operate a little different. Do you think we do pretty good as far as educating the community about what we've learned as social workers? And how do you see us being more impactful and more educational as it relates to educating the community about these types of disorders or ideas that we're running into?
Well, it's good to be, having this type of platform with the podcast, talking about mental health issues in March and Social Work Month. We are in the communities. We go through the local churches. We have different events that we give information out all over the city. But I think we could be more effective from the ground level, not only in the schools, in the churches, uh, doctors' offices, being embedded with clinicians, master's level, bachelor's level, and everyone who comes in for services. They greet you with like a screener. Hey, are you feeling depressed? What's going on? Some type of conversation like that. So you're not relying directly on a primary care physician to ask these questions because they can refer you to somebody else. And then there's a black hole, lack of a better term, from going to a physician and going to a mental health therapist. If you're embedded right there, just go down the hallway and have an assessment. Those things were in practice, funding, probably, cut services like that. But I am familiar with having everything right there under one shop.
Mm-hmm.
Just to answer your question again, the community needs to be more abreast with mental health illnesses, the diagnosis, the criteria, in every facet of their lives. You go to Starbucks, you get a coffee, you should have a mental health packet right along in the back table. And every health fair, you go to a fair, you get things about diabetes. Go to a mental health table and pick up something about depression and anxiety. You know, it's a big umbrella with many spokes, but I think as we all address each spoke, we get more educated. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like I said, you I'm talking about something that I'm really passionate about, and one thing that popped in my mind is even with the suicide rate amongst children, it's alarming. When my heart breaks every time you do an assessment and a child wants to take their life, and they're 10,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 10 years old. So we have to do a lot. I'm not saying we're not doing a good job, but we have to do a better job with educating the parents, the schools. Just like I said, it's being embedded in every school, in my opinion, in this nation. They do have a mental health therapist that's prepared and equipped to deal with all type of mental health issues, from kindergarten, 12th grade, colleges, wherever. They should be right alongside with professors, doctors. They should be and affordable. Let me just put that out there too,
Mm-hmm.
affordable. So, like I said, I don't want to keep rambling about it, but it's a lot of things that goes into educating the community.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, you're not rambling. I think it's great to have this dialogue. My podcast is all about letting people be authentic to what they're passionate about and getting that information out there to the community. So you're never rambling on with me. Because some things you may say may strike a chord with somebody,
Mm,
and they may go and try to find that additional help and those additional services.
right,
I agree with you 100%. We need to be doing a little bit. I'm not saying we're doing a terrible job, but we need to be doing a better job. It's almost like how we have, and I'm not picking at cancer, but cancer is a big thing. And, we don't victimize people with cancer. We have all these programs, and it's now is normalized, if you will.
right,
So we have a different approach, and I hope we can get somewhere in our society where we have compassion for people that are truly dealing with things. And to your point, we're starting with kindergartners.
right,
10-year olds are now literally uh, talking about, attempting at their own lives. Some of them are actually have successfully completed the attempt. And it is heartbreaking. That's why I do not work with children. That population is very sensitive to me. And so I wouldn't do well with assessing children and things like that. So I'm grateful to you that you can even assess them, that you have that ability and that posture to to do that, because it's needed. And so my hat's off to you on that. And in the moments of you, going from work to home, and we're all about coping here. What is one thing that you do to cope with the stresses of your day, in your day-to-day life? Just even not, you have family, you have things going on. What is one coping skill that you use that you would like to share with the audience today?
I got a couple of them.
Okay.
They're all healthy. Let me put it out there. They're all healthy. So I pray a lot. Going back and forth to work. It's about a 15, 20-minute drive, depending on where I'm going. I talk to myself in the car. Now, I'm not answering myself, but I'm letting all these emotions out. I can't believe this happened. This will happen. I don't understand. And that's my time just to get everything out. When I get home, I throw on Law and Order. I think I've seen every episode of the Law and Order, the SVU, Criminal Intent. I've seen everything, but just to have that noise just to drown out the day. I watch that. I watch sports. That takes me away for a couple of minutes, hours really. Then I get back into the swing of things. Mental health, mental health aids, sleep, take a nap, 15 minutes, 20 minutes recharge, um, eating healthy. I got to do a better job of that, but eating healthy, all those things are good coping mechanisms. I stopped drinking heavy years ago, and that was actually attributing to a negative coping skill.
Mm-hmm.
It's just mainly praying, talking to myself in the car, and watching Law and Order. Just to kind of decompress and then
Mhm.
get on with the rest of the night after I'm finished. It takes about maybe an hour just to fully get the day out.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
try not to talk about the day with my wife or my kids, but I do allude to certain things as far as with like I work in the jails, and it's heartbreaking to hear and see a lot of the people who are in jail from their background. So we have conversations about what to do, what not to do. But ultimately, I don't share nothing with my family. I keep that separate.
Hmm. That's good that you can do that work-life balance in that, and knowing what your coping skills are. And
Right,
see, I like for people to share their coping skills because people think it's this grandiose thing that we do, but it is the simplicity of talking to myself in the car and prayer and watching my favorite show and making sure I can leave that at home and not bring in the days of the world into my sanctuary, my home, my
right,
peace. And so trying to maintain that as close to possible, as you can is, I think, is a great way to cope. And you know them, like you're just rattling them off. And so that lets me know that you're not just saying these things, you actually practice it.
right. You have to do. See in therapy, a person who's coming in, they don't want to hear book knowledge. They don't want to hear what the DSM-5 say. They want to see and know that you know exactly what they're talking about. And quite frankly, if you're talking to somebody with a fixed delusion, hallucinations, they don't want you to agree with them. My key point is, listen, I don't know what you're going through. I don't hear or see nothing. So you need to tell me what you got going on and how can I help you get to the rest of the day. And they appreciate that because I'm not trying to dictate their life. You know, I don't know what you're going through. And then that's when the floodgates open and they say, all right, this is what I'm going through. And then now the authenticity of the therapy session comes out. You're being vulnerable because you don't know everything. You're not dictating what to do, and they're in charge of the therapy.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean, they tell me a bunch of fixed delusions. I'm like, well, I know you believe that. So how's it affecting your day? And then that's where the therapy starts. It's affecting me because X, Y, and Z. Well, how are you going to fix it? You know? And at the end of the session, I always tell them, you did a great job because you are explaining how you're going to fix it. To be honest, I didn't say nothing except how you feeling. How are we going to get to the next step? You know?
Hmm.
So I mean, it's many facets of it, but once we start understanding, where they are in their recovery and their therapy, things could work out a whole lot easier.
Hmm.
So what was the question? See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go down rabbit holes, man.
No, no,
I
no.
talk about mental health issues. Like this is, it's so much, there's so many things that we could address. That was a therapy aspect of it. With somebody wanting therapy. Um, let's see, I work in the jails for the last 4 years, and that's another underserved population. We have a bunch of guys, women, well, people who detained for whatever reason, not getting proper mental health services.
Hmm.
Too many times, when they come in for an assessment, you know, they just want to talk. And what I'm finding is on the street, they don't have anyone to talk to, no one to bounce an idea off of each,
Hmm.
a person who's stable. I've heard so many entrepreneurial ideas, and I told them, when you get through your legal issues, you may need to follow up on that, like now. You know, and they looking at me like, for real, you didn't make fun of me. I'm like, for what? It's a great idea. So and that's becoming a special population that I'm really interested in continue working with because, like I said, you have people who are misdiagnosed or been diagnosed with a mental health issue, and they're just housed at the jail,
Hmm.
and they're not getting the help that they need, no medication, things like. So we're working on that, and we're having great success. But just having somebody to talk to, especially those black males, the young guys. Uh, Real quick, there was I remember one gentleman, he came and he had a issue with women, and he told me, and I said, well, I told him my story, and he looked at me like, for real, you went through this? I'm like, man, every man goes through what you're going through, man. They just don't want to say it. You know, if a man's heart ain't break, it's gonna break. It happens. All right. So it's about how you rebound, how you recover. Is a positive way of recovering and a negative way of recovering. So, we processed that a couple of sessions, and now he's more able to deal with, he says he's more able to deal with rejection and things like that. I mean, it's something simple as, and then he got, well, something happened, he got his heart broke, and he committed a crime.
Gotcha.
I said, if you know how to deal with heartbreak, you wouldn't have committed what you did. He said, well, yeah, it makes sense. I said, there you go. I'm not diminishing how he was feeling, but in essence, that was the lineage. That's the linear thought process. So, just having a person to talk to, and again, a lot of times I don't even say nothing. I just sit back and say, what's going on, and they just unload. They just want somebody to talk to. That's not going to judge them. I had one guy, in one session, young black male, very inquisitive, wanted to ask questions, but the teacher didn't know how to answer them. So you know what her response was?
What?
Get out of my classroom. Yeah. And then he had years of this. This is not just a one-time occurrence. So he ended up dropping out. But he told me his dreams and aspirations. I was like, wow. What you need to do is go back to school and, continue doing, finish what you want to accomplish, because he was passionate about a certain trade. You get behind, I mean, he had a horrendous crime, don't get me wrong, but you get behind, get past that, and you see the vulnerability of this young man. He's wanted somebody to talk, and you can see the intensive look about just regular stuff I tell my kids growing up. He was looking, and he wanted more.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I have nothing more to give you. I got to go. But he wanted more.
Yeah.
How do I do this? How do I do that? So what's next? And it's just about having the outlets to want to talk to somebody. So if we have those conversations in the hood, you could be on the hood, you can smoke your blunt, drink your beer, whatever, but having constructive conversations, you can lead people in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I know that? Because that's what we did growing up. I mean, to be 100% transparent. We was doing our thing, on the block. Not selling dope or nothing, but drink your beer, smoke your blunt, whatever. But we talk about life.
Right.
What to do, what not to do. How dysfunctional that may sound, it actually stuck in my head and a lot of my good friends' heads to this day. Those conversations in the park.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you were able to listen and be relatable. School doesn't teach us to be relatable. We have to. We have
teach
to
us to be a student. You're the professionals, and you're not. And I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're not going to tell me what to do. And I'm a licensed professional, and I'm a mandated reporter. Therefore, I know what I'm talking about. Like, nonsense. Come on, man.
It doesn't work. It's not effective. It's not effective, especially with the population of which we serve. If we were in some perfect bubble world, it would be great, but that is not our reality. And we have to, I always try to tell people, I share a little bit about myself with people because I have to normalize myself, because they look at us like we have this all together world. But sharing just a little bit to get them, even just your dialect, bringing where you were and where you were raised into the conversation will soften a tone with a lot of males, because they understand that, not coming in and trying to minimize where you were and how you, and look, I can identify with this. Everybody's been heartbroken, and they'll be like, really? And that's how you, to your point, you can open up and you can start to do some effective work with them, and they're easier to get it. So, I've always liked how you talk about, growing up, and hearing you talk, is always, because it's genuine, and you're not denying any of your upbringing, and to be at a place where you're serving people that have committed crimes, to know that you still have a relatable key that they can access. Everybody wants to be from New York until they're from New York, right?
but you're right though. I find satisfaction, not satisfaction when they see you on the street. Now, you know, you're working in the jail, so it's like it's a stigma, right?
Yeah.
So I remember one time I was in the I was in the store, and this dude walked up and was like, "Yo, Mr. Hodge, what up?" I looked at him like, first of all, he looked different because he's not in his uniform, so I had to really, you know, look at his eye. I was like, "Oh, so it's such and such. What's up?" He's like, "Yo, I'm coming down to my telephone to see you." And I'm saying to myself, "Yo, we're at a store. We don't need to be talking about this right now, right?" He was like, "Nah, I don't care about that, yo." And then he went into what we talked about. You know, he talked about it. He said, "I'm coming." I said, "All right, man." But that's what it is. You know, when you know, away from the protection of the guards and all that, when you out in the street and somebody walked up and you provided services, whether it be in the jail or the center, and they telling you, you know, you made a difference in their lives, it's well worth it.
Yep.
You know, it's well worth it. Banging your head, talking to yourself in the car, being frustrated, you know. And what I'm learning also, you know, the frustration is actually is like that's flesh. It's fleshly. You know, if you allow the Lord to talk, work it out, you're not going to put yourself on that. I won't say a pedestal, but it's like you're not talking. Let the Lord go ahead and do it, and that's what I believe makes my job a lot easier. Pray before sessions. You know what, Lord, this is your person. This is your creation. Whatever happened, I don't know why they did it, but allow me to talk to them how you want me to talk to them, and that's where the flow goes. Because if I put my 2 cents in something, I might mess it up. But if I allow the Lord to go ahead and say, you know, I need you to say this to this person, and many times they'll look at me like, for real, how you know that? That's funny because I was thinking that. I'm like, well, it's the Lord, man. You know, and I stand on that 100%. I don't have any go-to therapy. Let the Lord work, you know. And He said, all right, I want you to talk about this situation, and we go for it. Now I'm careful because, you know, state agency and all that, but the fact is, once they open up and say, you know, I read the scriptures, it's a wrap. I'm going in on that. So yeah. And that's, and be honest with you, that is the best self-help book, CBT manual you need is the Bible. All right. And if you look at the CBT triangle, that's where the book of Romans talk about. Straight up and down.
Tell us about it. Come on, give us some knowledge. Drop some jewels on us.
Oh, Romans 12:2 talk about changing your mind. You change your mind. You're not of the world, but you're in the world. It's all about reframing. So if you're talking about what you're thinking about was not what's good, what's virtuous, what is true, as opposed to what's negative. Well, that's what reframing thoughts are. And the cognitive triangle, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, same thing. So if you take that theory, but you understand the basis of it from the scriptures, you can't lose. But the fact is, again, you letting the Holy Spirit work through you. I stand on that. Anybody asks me, director asks me, that's what I do. That's what I do. I'm a social worker, but I'm also a man of God that's working in social work. You know, every encounter, in my opinion, is a godly encounter, whether you know it or not. And whatever I say is coming from the Lord, I believe. And,
Amen.
That's how I work it out.
Amen. I appreciate that. That's
the whole book of Romans 12. You'll see ain't nothing but CBT right there.
The whole book of Romans is what? CBT?
Yeah, especially Romans 12.
Romans 12.
Romans 12.
I'm gonna write that down. Romans 12.
And then you talk about, I love this part here. Reap what you sow. Right? I don't go into the scriptures in every session. Don't get me wrong. However, I say, well, what are you reaping? You're reaping discord, any type of issues, discord, dysfunction. If you sow in that, you're going to reap that, right? They're like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. So, well, how do you think we need to change? Well, I need to start doing this and do that. Well, okay. That ain't nothing but a parable from Jesus Christ, man.
That's what you tell them.
I'm serious, man. That's my. You want to know my therapy? That's it. I read the Bible and I apply it to daily life. The application of the word, and that's it. But they don't even know because they don't read it. I'm not saying anything more than what they're telling me. I'm going out. I have this girlfriend, and I have 3, 4 girlfriends doing the same thing. I said, okay, what are you doing? Well, I'm cheating on all of them. Well, maybe you need to stop cheating. Reaping what you sow. That's all it is.
That's simple.
Simple as that. Simple as that. I mean, I could go on and on about. Oh man, it's just that's my manual. I use DSM-5 a lot for the diagnosis and things like that. But the porn ain't nothing but scripture, man. And, research solution focused therapy, right?
Yes.
What does that say? You're getting a solution.
Right.
You gotta identify the problem.
Right.
You identify the problem, you got a solution. What parable you could think about do the same thing?
Don't put me on the spot, Varney. Tell us.
I'm sorry. All right. I was doing this the other day about being hypocritical and judgmental. Said he's saying one thing, and then he's doing another. I said, well, can you give me an example of who does that also? He talk about the parents and things like that. I said, you know what? If I got a beam in my eye, can I really see you clearly? No, you got to take it out first. Exactly. That ain't nothing but Matthew 7, man. That ain't from Matthew 7. The Lord make my job easy, man. I might get in trouble for this, but hey, whatever.
You are not going to get in trouble for
my job easy. Easy.
Make it plain for us.
Plain. That's what the scripture says. Now you're talking scripture. Make it plain.
Make it plain.
You know? You're talking about your body is my temple, so why are you putting stuff in your body?
Ooh.
I mean, I can go on. The Lord makes it easy. But I don't say, this is what the Lord says. But,
right.
If you may having an issue, and then I just apply what the Lord told me to say.
Yeah. And I appreciate your candidness, because they tell us again to separate who we are as it relates to being effective therapists, but we can't. Right. Because who we are helps us, it guides us into being effective therapists. And to know that you hold strong to your faith and that you actually use it to help guide you. And then God tells you, hey, say it this way. And you're able to do that. And you're making it plain. You're getting it where the goats can get it without actually having to say, thus said the Lord and all of that. You're giving it to them where you're planting the seed, right? And you're planting it in a palliative way where they can digest it. And so therefore you're doing your work. And I love it. I think social work ain't not, I think we are followers of the teaching of the Bible. We are. That's what we are come to do. We come to serve. We come to make it plain and to help those that are sick and that are lost. And I think you're doing a masterful job.
And also, Tiff, you got to remember, the social work part of it is actually putting work to action. But our work is dead. Yeah. So now we don't talk spiritually, in the therapy. Now our social work, the second part is what community resources we got to help you now, and that's the second part that people forget. So now we are implementing not only, you're talking about get my mind right. All right, now let's get some behaviors right. Here we go. How are we going to go into the community? How are you going to get a job? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? Right? And that's where it all comes full circle. In the case with therapy, triangle, So once we start changing the way we think about things, and you could really make a lot of behavior and feeling change. You know what I mean? So that's in a nutshell what I do on a daily basis. We deal with the jails, we deal with outpatient services, we deal with mobile crisis in the community. Deal with, different diversionary programs within the community. We have a mental health court, which is great. Where a person who was convicted of a crime, instead of going to prison, they get therapy, and they serve out therapy for, a year, 2 years, and then after that, they don't go to prison.
Oh wow!
So now they're getting their mental health issues taken care of in the community. They're getting jobs, they're getting their GEDs. They're living in the community, and after that, they're good. So it's many things that I do in this capacity in the realm of social work. Many things. So I'm always on the go, but it's fulfilling because you see the progress. We have people graduate from the program, and they're doing well in the community. So it's multifaceted. So when a person coming out of school, you know, you're not going to be regulated to one thing if you don't want to. I want to stay with social work. I want to deal with kids. And listen, man, outside of therapy, social work is so broad. You can do whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do, and how, you know, there's no, and that's why I like it, because I don't like to be molded into one, you know, one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do what I need to do. I'm not a free spirit, but you know, this is me. You know,
Yeah.
just going out there and just dipping and dabbing, you know, and helping everywhere I can in every capacity that's possible.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely comfortable in this respect. And believe it or not, I'm about to retire in a couple of years. So go figure that, right?
Go figure.
Yeah, figure that, yeah. I
I
still feel like
know.
25 years old, man, but yeah. Come
That's
5:30, I
amazing.
need to take a nap. So that's what I call another coping skill. Like I said, the nap. 5:30, I'm taking a nap.
Nap
Monday through
time.
Friday. Don't come look for me. I'm napping. I'm napping someplace.
I need to recharge.
I gotta recharge, man. I gotta recharge. Yeah. This is fun though, man. This is fun. This is fun.
I know this is amazing, and I appreciate you taking some time to come on and share with me and my audience what it is you do, your passion. I hear your passion. I appreciate your passion, and your heart for people, and your heart for what it is that you do, and just being a super social worker and really helping people break barriers. Is what we do, and I'm most humble that you are not afraid to allow your spirituality, your faith, to be minimized in what you do. It is a big active part of it, and you are allowing it to shine, and so God gets the glory out of it all. And we are happy that you have allowed God to use you in such a capacity, and you're willing. And so, I mean, I think Jesus was a chief social worker. So, you know, I don't know how we do this work, and we don't credit one of the OGs
Truth, man.
of
I mean,
walking around helping people.
listen, but he healed from within first.
Amen.
Then he did physical stuff, and this is exactly what we do on a daily basis. You brought up a good point. One blind man said, "Hey, yeah, actually, you want to be healed?" He was like, "Yeah, I want to be healed." All right, you got to ask for it first. You got to come into the center. You want to be healed, so let me heal you. And then he did something else. He said, "All right, your sins are forgiven." You're like, "Wait a minute, how you can do that?" That's what the Pharisees and the Sadducees and people said. He said, "What thing is easier, for me to heal his sins or his ailment?" You're like, "You can't do that." He said, "I'll tell you what, I did it. I'm gonna do this too." So I performed that and a miracle. The physical part of it is what we do. This is what I was talking about, the community, the physical part. But the spiritual part, the inside part, that's also what we do. So you got it's connected.
It's connected. We can't
And
disconnect it.
you can disconnect it. You can't say, "I'm going to work with you, you know, to get your mind right." But then if you're hungry, I can't do nothing. Nah, I'm going, "Hey, I have a soup kitchen. Hey, let's go down here real quick." And then I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to take you down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take you down there. So now it's like, I got you. So every aspect of whatever need that you need, my business is to make sure that's 100% taken care of. Not enabling,
Mm-hmm.
empowering you like this podcast. I'm empowering you to do it. So next time you come, I ain't gonna take you down. You take the bus down there because I'm showing you how to take the bus. I'm telling you, I'm giving you phone numbers. If you're hungry again, go ahead and call this person. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. The first time I'm gonna show you. The second time you're gonna demonstrate that you know how to do it. You know what I mean? So that's also, and we learned this over 25 years of just just this trial and error.
Amen.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't think I could have done anything else, to be honest with you.
I agree.
I don't think so. Yeah, I could probably be a lawyer because I like to debate stuff. You know.
I could see you a lawyer.
Lawyer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lawyer. But other than that, man, but social work is it, man. I love it. I like it. But it was funny is I'm going into law with the mental health court. So I'm learning a whole lot from that respect.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's
And
a lot
that's what
going
I
on.
love about the versatility of what we can do.
Right. There's a spot where they work, I don't want to go ahead, but working with solicitors and defense attorneys in that capacity. I'm believing that's another area of social work can manage, depending on the clientele. If a person mentally
Mm-hmm.
ill, they can come together and talk about that. So in the state house, there's a lot of laws that's being passed with dealing with mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great field to come into. Um, you can make more money is now than ever. I mean, it's better than what it was. Let me say that. So but I know before you said that. How do I balance?
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a wife that's in social work too.
Mm-hmm.
She understands, the turmoil and stress that could come with it. So man, that's a good thing. It's good to have a partner who knows, what you're going through on a daily day basis, and what you understand.
Mm-hmm.
All that balances out.
Yes. Shout out to my sister.
Yeah, man. She's itching to come in the room, but I told her
Is
nah,
she?
it's
Is she?
podcast. It's not a TV show. It's a podcast. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Tell her I'm gonna interview her next.
That would be interesting.
I know. I should
That would
do. I should interview both of you at the same time. It would be amazing.
Nah. One at a time. I don't think the listeners are ready for that, bro.
Yes. Talk about y'all love and marriage and fun stuff.
This is fun. I mean,
It's
this is
great.
good. Yeah. In fact, your nephew Donovan was thinking about doing a podcast. I said, "What you want to do it on?" He said, "Well, I got to figure that out." I said, "Well, when you figure that out, go ahead." But this is cool, man. This is
Yeah.
not what I expect.
No.
Like this.
I'm glad you came on in and you are enjoying this. And I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to wrap this up with you because I appreciate your time and I value your time.
You're trying to shut me up. That's what it is.
No,
Hey, I cleared my schedule. I have not.
you?
I can't say it too loud, guys, because if I say I have nothing else to do, I'm gonna find something to do. I want to go tell me something to do. But I cleared my schedule, man.
Did you clear your schedule?
I cleared it, man. This is cool, man. I know you gotta do stuff, but this is fun here. I'm enjoying myself.
This is awesome. I'm glad because at first you were a little like, I don't know. And now you're in it, and I'm glad that people get to see and hear you in the way that I get to experience you. So I'm glad that you loosening up.
Loosen up a little bit.
Yeah. If there was one or a few words of advice that you would like to leave with my listeners or our listeners, what would it be? If it was something that you want people to catch right now so that they don't have to catch it later, what would that be?
The book of Deuteronomy talks about dry land. Talks about the Lord watering the land and coming forth with fruit. If you're in a barren land and you feel like you don't have any direction, seek the Lord for the direction you need and trust and believe that the process, though it may not yield fruit immediately, the water's going to come, and you're going to produce the fruit that you need to sustain. So trust the process. The road is bumpy, but just trust the process. Trust the Lord with all your heart. Do not rely on your own insight and all things. You give them. Well, I messed it up. For probably 3, 5, 6, and 7. But to grasp it is simply this, man. Just trust the Lord and do not rely on your own insight. And always acknowledge Him, and He will lead your path straight.
Amen.
Yeah.
I've had an amazing time talking with you today. I appreciate your time and your efforts. Happy Social Work Month. Yeah.
Social work. That was. I mean, this. I said, yeah, this is professional. I didn't say nothing less, but I'm like, this is. I gotta wait for the host and the scheme and all this. I see my name with the record. I'm like, this is all right, man. This is cool. I like this.
Varney,
what's the topic next week?
Next week, I'm interviewing another social worker, but I'm gonna bring you back. If you want to come back, I'll bring you back.
Yeah, I'll give a new picture because I look older in that picture. I thought about it. That's a bad picture. I look younger now, so
yeah, you do.
Another picture of younger.
Yeah. But I'll bring you back, and we can talk about what you want to talk about.
I'm talking about nothing but the Knicks because the Knicks are doing well right now. So I'm talking about the Knicks. Hey, nah. Nah, we ain't talking about
What
that.
about them New York Giants?
Hey, you know what it is with them too. They had a good season,
They
so
did. They
you
did.
know, New York sports is looking well. The Mets, hey, we went to the playoffs. The Rangers hockey, the Yankees, all right. I mean, hey, you want to talk sports? I could do that too.
I hope you all really enjoyed this fun conversation that you just heard from my brother and colleague, Varney Hodge. Please make sure you share this with someone that you may think that could benefit from hearing our conversation. We would love for you to share this. If you found anything helpful that you want to comment on, you make sure wherever you are listening to this podcast, you leave that in the comment box. I would love to read any comments that you have and share them with Varney as it relates to this episode. Make sure you join me next week as we're going to interview another social worker that is breaking barriers. Her name is Mary Smith Tyler. She is a licensed clinical social worker and she is definitely breaking barriers. So make sure you have subscribed and that those notifications are on. I also want you to know that I would love to connect with you outside of this podcast. Join my monthly newsletter to stay in the loop about upcoming virtual events, savings, and other fun stuff by visiting tiffanyempowers.me. You can find me on social media as well by searching my name, Tiffany Empowers. And until next time, stay engaged, connected, continue to educate yourself, and embrace the enlightenment as it comes.